productive. Your points have been made. They will be passed on. They won't be flushed away. They'll be passed on and passed up to the Minister of the Environment to take action. And if you don't like the result, I really encourage you to come back and keep fighting for it, because obviously you guys are passionate. You're not here just to, again, like me, not to waste people's time. I'm glad to take some more questions. I'm glad to take more questions. I would ask, perhaps, if you could think whether it was posed before in a very different format, and I leave it to your discretion as to who posed the question that was more similar to yours, and then put your hand down and let the other person who has not asked has an original question to please pose it. Yes. Thank you.
Bonjour, Ville-Marie Le-Sud-Ouest Île-des-Soeurs. Je viens ici en mon propre nom. Je suis professeur à l'Université de Sherbrooke au centre de recherche sur le développement durable et l'environnement. Premièrement, la première chose que je veux vous dire, c'est This is 2016. We hope Canada is back. Alors, on voudrait aussi dire I think the people is behind you. C'est juste qu'on veut plus que ce que probablement vous êtes prêts à consentir aux multinationales. En tant que professeur à la maîtrise, j'ai des étudiants qui font des travaux, bien entendu, en développement durable, et j'ai une étudiante qui a fait un travail extraordinaire sur les GES et tout le calcul des GES en disant que si on prend toutes les stratégies qu'on veut prendre, ils sont impossibles d'arriver même au target de Harper si on continue à exploiter les sables bitumineux comme on les exploite. On comprend très bien tout le monde que le pipeline, ça va faire mal, tout ça, mais on comprend tout le monde aussi qu'on est dans une grosse piscine. Hein? Et s'il y a quelqu'un qui fait pipi à un bout de la piscine, bien toute la piscine va être polluée. Alors même si le Canada veut garder son sable bitumineux et on veut continuer à exploiter ça parce qu'on pense que ça va sauver l'économie canadienne, je pense qu'il faut penser plus globalement à tout ce que cela aura comme impact. Il est important aussi que vous calculiez les externalités de tous ces polluants-là, parce que tranquillement pour lui, on parle des GES, on parle aussi d'autres gaz à effet de serre qui vont s'additionner à tout ça. En calculant les externalités, on va probablement se rendre compte qu'effectivement, l'exploitation des gaz des sables bitumineux actuellement nous coûte beaucoup plus cher environnementalement et socialement que ce qu'en réalité, on pense que ça nous rapporte. Je voudrais juste bâtir avec le monsieur qui disait qu'on est en transition. On est d'accord qu'on est en transition. On va parler des produits demain matin. Mais on vous demanderait, s'il vous plaît, un plan Corsu, qui est un plan de 2016, pour pouvoir s'assurer, nous et nos générations futures, que le Canada est un leader mondial dans le domaine du bien. Merci.
Concerned with mental health, and like people have said, there's many people that are concerned with climate change, not just environmentalists. I have 3 concrete suggestions for the Liberal government. The first is don't ratify the TPP. Taxpayers in Canada are already being sued for $250 million for Quebec's progressive decision to ban fracking. And if we ratify the TPP, this just extends further lawsuits that are going to cost the Canadian taxpayer money. My second suggestion is that we're very entangled financially in the fossil fuel industry. One example of this is the billions and billions of dollars in our pension plans. The Canadian pension plan is the 10th biggest pension plan in the world, and we have billions invested in the fossil fuel industry. As fossil fuel stop getting used, we're going to lose billions of dollars in investments unless we change our current portfolio. The suggestion, as was said before, would be stop fossil fuel subsidies. If we're going to put a carbon tax in place, which is a great idea, it makes no sense to continue subsidizing fossil fuels. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mariah. I was also an executive on Writers Students Association. I was supposed to ask a question about a national transit plan, but honestly, after all this, I have to ask what exactly is the point of this forum. If the Liberal government really wanted to do something about climate change, you could just listen to all the scientists that almost believing that you guys are actually listening to us, like, is anything going to come out of this? We keep saying ourselves, leave it in the ground, and that's not getting through. And, you know, this is not a new idea, right? Like, this has been said for a very long time. So is there going to be any progress made on that, or is it just going to be the same old economy excuse over and over again, which we know is not real? I mean, yeah.
Are you going to answer?
Hi, my name is Victor Frankel. I'm the Environment Commissioner of the Postgraduate Student Society at McGill and the Secretary General-elect of that society. I'm a PhD student at McGill. I want to speak to reiterate the sister's comment of the Citizens Climate Lobby's initiative proposal for the carbon tax and dividend proposal, which is a very solid proposal that your colleagues in the Green Party are supporting and that I'm sure you've heard of, but we will certainly give you literature on that. It is a plan that I speak for that imposes a fee on fossil fuels and other greenhouse gases at the point where they're actually entering the economy. So it taxes those people that are polluting the environment, that are polluting our air and our water, and that at this moment, because of market distortions that do not value, do not put a price on human life or on a healthy environment, this carbon tax would put a fee on that carbon and on those greenhouse gas emissions. This is a plan that is the most efficient, the most transparent, and the most enforceable mechanism to drive effective and fair transition to a domestic energy economy that is renewable and that is green. And again, talking about international agreements, the failure of United Nations negotiations is because they're holding countries accountable for reductions of carbon. If every country, and if it starts in Canada, if countries start to say, we're going to put a tax on the carbon that we and our industries are putting out into the environment, every other country will follow suit. So this is an opportunity for Canada, for citizens of Montreal to take real leadership, not only in our local communities, in Parliament, but in the international negotiations. This is what we need to happen, and it needed to happen yesterday. Yes. Thank you.
I live in St. Anthony.
Speak up.
Okay. I would just like to, I'll speak briefly about something which has been absent from the conversation so far, and from most conversations that I've heard on this topic. Fortunately, most of the things I feel most strongly about have already been said. But I also think that we should be having a conversation about the impact of aviation and air travel. I think that the era of luxury air travel is over, should have ended. I think that a conversation about taxation of air travel needs to be had. The impact is enormous, and unlike so many other aspects of our environment and sources of emissions, there is no real sign of improvement on that front, and I think that that should be a big part of the conversation. I also would like to go back to what you said about your constituents, of which I am one, about you not expecting their priority to be the environment. I think that we all come from different backgrounds, but at some point, as we learn about the situation and we think about the long term, there's a switch that flips, and we have to reprioritize. And I think that you cannot have any hard lines about whether or not we take things out of the ground because it is good for the economy. I think that that switch has not yet flipped for the Liberal government. And I would echo what the woman before me said, that this whole thing is void if we don't consider the option of leaving it in the ground. Thank you.
Bravo. There's a gentleman who's been very patient on that. Just to qualify your comment, and I appreciate it. Air travel, we have a state-of-the-art C-Series that is very fuel efficient ammonia that we're trying to sell to the world. I know it might not make the unanimity of this group, but it is extremely fuel efficient and silent. So on an equally important point, when we did thousands of doors, team and I think tens of thousands of people were reached either by telephone or by knocking on the door, and we got some recurring themes which cross jurisdictional bounds. And one of the important ones was access to healthcare and family doctors. Another one, this was during the campaign, and prior to that, being able to pay bills, affordability of housing. All these issues were usually what's in my backyard stuff that you get in writings. You get it everywhere. The national concern usually comes out 4, 5, or 6 as we do these somewhat empirical studies. Now, we've seen a shift over the last little while, and the number one thing that came back in the pamphlet in our writing letter was the environment. It's not a scientific sample, but it's a sign of a change, down from 5 or 6 up to number 1. And so it's interesting, and it's extremely important. It wasn't lost on us as part of our campaign that the environment was incredibly important, and we campaigned on it. But the point that it's jumped like that is extremely indicative of that growing consciousness. So thank you. Sir.
Thank you. So my name is Alex Jordan. I'm a professional in environment affairs, but I'm mostly came here because I'm a citizen, and I like coming to this type of meeting because I see here a bunch of passionate people, but mostly we're all on the same page here. I mean, there's no ifs and buts, we're all here together in this. But as passionate as we are for change, going outside of this building, there's about much more people who are passionate to stay the same. So I think that even beyond the risk of corporations taking over the government agenda, we have the risk of the general population not being engaged as much as it should, so that it doesn't put the government at risk of not being elected because they put a tax on carbon or because anything like that. So I think what I'm saying here is that I hope you hear us, and I know you do, but we also have to go back outside and help the transition for the other folks, and the government also has to help with education and with a kind of oil detox kind of program for most of the general population that feels that they're going to go hungry because of carbon tax, that they are going to lose, their children's well-being if carbon taxes are put up. So those people have to be engaged to change because they are the 50% right now, and we really have to understand that we're not at 50%. We're not there yet. So for those 50%, I hope that in that agenda of things to do, education, and not only the children, also the adults, education. I think that's going to bring us the extra mile. Thank you.
Thank you. There is an extremely important educational hill to climb on a number of levels, not only the environment, indigenous rights, where we're taking the economy on a number of levels, and it's our job as politicians. We didn't get hired simply to get votes. We got hired to push a vision and implement a vision. And, again, as you underlined, the consensus in this room doesn't necessarily reflect 50 yards out of this room. But necessarily, these are points that need to be made, and if they are right, if they are true, people need to be educated as to them and the importance of them in our economy and in our survival. So, thank you.
All right, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. Before you start getting up, I have Sally Livingston's phone. So, there you go. Oui, on vous remercie infiniment d'être venu ce soir. C'est un nouveau processus, tout le monde est en train d'apprendre, c'est vraiment important que vous voissiez entendu. Thank you very much. And please, if you haven't had a chance to say what you wanted to say, please send us an email. Thank you.